Hi everyone. In this video, I want to talk about the limited palette. So the limited palette is what we're going to be using for our still life painting. Now in your kit, you'll notice you've got quite a few colours there. Oh, there's another one there that I've missed. And it can be quite confusing. What do you really need to use? Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about today. So the only colours that I'm going to get you to use 90% of the time are cool yellow, cool red, warm blue, burnt umber, and white. Okay, these other colours here can be used in exceptional circumstances when you want to actually create a certain colour that you can't, for instance, create with, say, a warm blue. For instance, turquoise blue, turquoise green. It's a really unusual colour that requires you use, your cool blue or a phthalo blue. So we only use these colours in exceptional circumstances, and of course we do use them, but 90% of the time I just want you to be using these ones here. Okay, so I'm now going to show you how you can mix various types of reds with just a cool red. So in your kit, you've also got a warm red, which is actually often confused for orange. So this one here, it's a beautiful red, but if you include it on your palette, it's just going to confuse you. So I'm going to show you how you can actually mix that with simply using your cool red and your cool yellow, just to sort of demonstrate that you really don't need to put all these colours on your palette. They're only going to confuse you. So if I add a little bit of yellow to that, I've pretty much made that warm red almost instantaneously. Okay, so let's have a look at the warm red that I told you not to use, and let's compare it. I haven't even opened that one yet. Okay, so let's put a little bit of that down, and you know what? They're practically the same. This one actually needs a bit more yellow now that I look at it, but you've pretty much just made essentially a warm red just by simply using the red that you have on your limited palette. So have a look at that. They're practically the same. Okay, so what I'm trying to say to you is that you don't need to have all your colours on your palette. You are better off limiting your palette because it's less confusing, and you can mix all the colours you need 90% of the time. And when it comes time for you to go back to your painting, say a day or two later, you will probably have forgotten which blue you used or which red you used to mix a certain colour. So it just adds another layer of confusion. So if you've got fewer colours to use, there's going to be less confusion as well. Now, you may have noticed that there was no black on my limited palette. The reason is because you're going to mix your own black. You're going to use a warm blue and a burnt umber. And I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm going to demonstrate why. So there's some warm blue, burnt umber. Okay, if we mix these two colours together, we will pretty much get a black. So yep. And the beauty of making your own black is that you will be able to select whether you want a warm black or a cool black. Okay, so there we go. That's pretty much black. Okay, and you probably will never need a pure black anyway, because pure black isn't really a colour, it's the absence of colour. So there you go. There's pretty much what you would use instead of a black. Burnt umber and warm blue mixed together. It creates a more interesting black. It's not a dead black. Black from a tube can be quite lifeless. This is quite a more interesting black, and you can also create a cool black by using more blue, okay, in your black, and a warm black, okay, by using more burnt umber. So you can vary your blacks a bit more. So we're going to use these two colours to create our black. I also wanted to talk a little bit about green. Now, in nature, you rarely have turquoise green. You might see that if you go to the Greek islands or to Queensland, look at the water. And so, yeah, if in that case, you would probably use your cool blue to make that. But in nature, pretty much most greens are made with a combination or consist of a combination of the warm blue and the cool yellow. So I'm going to show you what I mean. So here I've got my cool yellow. I'm just going to add some green to it. And that particular shade of green that I'm making, all these different greens, are actually the sorts of greens that you would find if you looked outside into your garden or went to a park and looked at some trees. These are pretty much the greens that you would see. You would rarely see vivid turquoise greens. But of course, in a painting, if you needed to use those particular shades of green, then you would basically pick up your cool blue and you would use it. But you wouldn't use it in your everyday palette. So if you have a look at the painting that I'm showing you now, this whole painting was made using just a limited palette, okay? And where the artist decided that, he's a male actually, so where he decided he needed that beautiful shade of green and that beautiful vivid shade of red, he actually used special colours. So he actually put those colours on his palette for that particular reason only, but he didn't use them throughout. So I'm just going to show you how he probably made that really lovely shade of green. And notice he hasn't used it throughout, he's only used it in sections just to kind of add interest to those areas. Okay, so this is my phthalo or cool blue, which is not a very natural colour. It's actually very synthetic, but you can see already I've managed to mix that shade of green, and there's probably a little bit of white in that as well. So there you go. There will be times when you do need to use these colours, but only put them on your palette when you really need to. Don't make them part of your regular palette for mixing colours. So there you go. Okay, so for this activity I'm going to demonstrate how I can mix a whole assortment of colours with just my 5 colours on my limited palette. So I've got white, I've got cool yellow, cool red, I've got the warm blue, okay, which doesn't have that kind of turquoisey colour in it, and I've got burnt umber. And what I'm going to do is just cover my whole page with as many colours as possible. So I'm just going to have a little bit of fun with this, and I'm going to get you to do this as well, just to kind of get you acquainted with this limited colour palette. Okay, so you're going to need your brush and jar of water. Oh, my one's a bit dirty. Make sure it's nice and clean, and we'll get started. Okay, so you know, just mix your colours on your palette. Don't mix them on your canvas, and just sort of dab them on as you make them. So every time I make a colour, I'm just going to dab it onto my, well, not my canvas, my visual arts diary. Okay, so I'm already getting some really beautiful colours here, and I'm just working intuitively, really. And you can see that, if you were worried that your colour range was just going to be so boring, well, that, I can tell you, that is not right. That is so far from the truth, because the colours that I'm getting now are just pretty amazing, like really beautiful. So, have a little bit of fun with this, and I'm just kind of gradually adding colours to my existing colours. So look at that. I mean, that's a beautiful sort of lilac. And you'll notice that they're not only are they vivid and bright, but they're quite natural looking as well. That's quite beautiful. Don't forget, add white to see what happens, because white often changes the colour entirely, and you get some really beautiful effects. I might add a bit of yellow to that. Although that's probably not your favourite shade of green, it's pretty much replicating nature. So if you were going to paint, say, a still life, that's probably closer to what you would see than if you used a phthalo or a cool blue, like that. I might add a bit of burnt umber to these colours too now. So I'm just going to get you to cover pretty much your whole page with these colours. So, let's try. I've already mixed some browns now. I might put more burnt umber in that, see what happens. And the beauty of a limited colour palette is that it's quite inevitable that you're going to end up with a very harmonious colour scheme. The colours are going to match, okay? They're not going to look discordant or like they don't belong together. Already, I'm seeing this with my own eyes, just doing what I'm doing now. Actually, I should have put more in there. Let's see. Might add some. You can start mixing them with each other. Okay, so they're pretty much all the colours I was able to mix in about 10 minutes, and you can see, they range from really vivid colours right down to muted sort of tones. And, those muted tones look amazing next to the vivid colours. So a painting really shouldn't be full of vivid colours. It should be mainly muted tones, and then just, using the more vivid colours to just create a contrast and interest. Muted colours make vivid colours look even more vivid. That's my palette by the end, and it's pretty much overtaken with blue, and that's because blue is probably got the most pigment in it, but it's, yeah, So yeah, have a go of that and have fun.